Geldings. Nihilator has drawn attention from the very first time he steps foot on the racetrack, partially because of his brilliance and also partially because of his famous sire. In the 5 years since Niatross has retired, virtually every record in harness racing has fallen. Money records, time records, almost all except one. Niatross, now 8 years old and at stud in upstate New York, is still the fastest standardbred in the history of the sport. At one time, he was also the richest. In the summer of 1980, he paced to a record in the Meadowlands pace, the first $1 million race. It was a welcome victory coming after the only 2 losses in his career. Part owner Guida, driver Clint Galbraith, and the Niatross family celebrated that win 5 years ago.
He's a great horse, and I think he'll even go faster as the season goes on. He showed tonight that he looks like he's in great condition, and Clint gave him a great drive.
Guida was right to think that Niatross could go faster. A few months later in Lexington came the crowning jewel in a career, a time trial against 2 running horses.
He's in the final 8. Niatross is going to be the fastest ever in the sport. He races the wire. Niatross, 52-4 record performer, approaches the wire. 3/4, 21-4. And Niatross is home in 49. 1/5. You've seen it.
149-1 is now the standard. Nobody had gone faster before. Nobody has since. But this year, one came close, and appropriately, it was a horse of whom Niatross could be proud if he understood. That horse is Nihilator, the son of Niatross, who is the fastest racing standardbred in history. The world record started early for Nihilator. Last summer in the Woodrow Wilson, it was the fastest mile ever by a 2-year-old. Nihilator then wintered in Florida while his owners planned an ambitious 3-year-old season for him, an assault on the money title by way of the Meadowlands pace and other races, and a possibly more serious assault on his sire's time trial record. Early in the season, trainer Bill Haughton was suggesting that a mile in an inconceivable 1:48 might be within reach.
Well, 50-3 is a heck of a mile and way ahead of what anything else has gone at night. So I really feel that the 1:48 is within his reach. You never will know till he gets there, and I've never been one to brag on anything like that, but I really feel that this horse has that ability.
The Meadowlands pace was nearly routine, a win, a world record of 150-3, and headlines. Nihilator was the most famous standardbred in the country as a result of the pace, the subject of features in Sports Illustrated and People magazine. The next level was even more speed, and in a near exhibition race at the Meadowlands, thanks to spirited competition from Falcon Sealster, the race record came.
Nihilator with long and powerful strides, and Bill O'Donnell urging him on. They're after the world record. Falcon Sealster is racing in second. They're coming to the final 16th. It's only Nihilator against the clock. Falcon Sealster in pursuit. They're coming to the finish. O'Donnell going to work. Here's Nihilator. Here's the final time. 1:49-3. This is the fastest race mile in history, and just 2 ticks off the time trial record of Niatross. Nihilator, another devastating performance.
It was only the second mile in history below 150 and just 2/5 off Niatross's time trial record, a remarkable feat since time trials are often a second or more faster than race times.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable horse. It doesn't matter any kind of racetrack, though. It's real hard to get over this track real fast, and clay track would knock another second or so off that, I think.
There were challenges ahead for Nihilator, a win on a track smaller than a mile. His only career losses had been on 5 ace-mile tracks, and a win in one of the traditional classics. Both were accomplished in the Little Brown Jug, and Bill Haughton thought that might be enough to make him Horse of the Year.
I certainly think he should be. You never know how they'll vote, but I don't think you could have asked any horse to do any more.
Of course, the Nihilator crew wanted something else, that all-time record of 149-1, but rain at Springfield, wind, and a failure at DuQuoin, and cold weather at the Red Mile have made that impossible. He will retire as the fastest racing standardbred ever, but his sire will have the overall record a bit longer. Nihilator has a chance to go over the $3 million mark in career earnings tonight. There is a special challenge. He suffered his only loss on a mile track last week at Garden State. So there he is. How does he compare with Niatross? How do you look at it?
Well, the comparison statistically is amazing because their careers have almost been parallel exactly. As 2-year-olds, Niatross won all 13 of his races. As a 2-year-old, this horse won 12 of 13, lost only the Breeders' Crown, incidentally, when Dragon's Lair beat him. As 3-year-olds, we mentioned 22 out of 24 for Nihilator, 24 out of 26 for Niatross. The money isn't really a true indicator because of inflation, even in the last 5 years. They are outstandingly great horses, and it was Lou Guida's faith in Niatross that made him get Nihilator. There were other horsemen, many horsemen, who were faulting the first crop by Niatross, didn't like their conformation, didn't like the fact they weren't all uniform, and of course they've turned out to be great horses. Guida, who owned Niatross, co-owner of Niatross, was determined he was going to have and prove the case. So what he did was send out Boni as lieutenant, and they bought 9 Niatrosses, and one of them was Nihilator. Others were other good ones. Pershing Square, of course, is chairman of the board, are other of the Niatrosses that have shown their way into greatness.
Of course, now they can afford to buy many more Niatrosses if they want to, thanks to Nihilator's great accomplishments. As we mentioned,
Here we go. The horses and drivers are now in the starter of Pete Wager. It's post time. This field with pace now, and there they go. They're off and pacing in the Breeders' Crown final for 3-year-old geldings and colts. And as they make their way into the first turn from the outside, chairman of the board wants the lead. Dan Garvin gets away smartly second on the inside. Armbro Dallas and Nihilator is moving up quickly on the outside to challenge the top 2. Further back comes Dignitarian. Then it's Whitson's Wizard and the trailer's Anxious Robbie. They make their way around the first turn, and chairman of the board's entry mate Nihilator now moves on by on the outside, and Nihilator owns the quarter in 27-4. They race down the backstretch, and Nihilator customarily is now on top, and Bill O'Donnell has the 3-year-old Pacing Wonder on top as the Royal sophomore 7 make their way down the backstretch. Right there, second is chairman of the board, his entry mate. Dan Garvin menaces racing third in the garden spot, and 2.5 lengths further back, Armbro Dallas. And that Armbro Dallas winner over Nihilator last time, he has about 4 lengths to make up on the leader as they pass by the half in 57-1. Further back then comes next on the inside, Dignitarian, followed by Whitson's Wizard, and the trailer is still Anxious Robbie. They continue on the turn, and it's Nihilator, the 3-year-old Pacing Wonder, looking to go out like a champion should, a winner. Right there, chairman of the board stalks his entry mate second, and Dan Garvin still third, and there goes Armbro Dallas. Armbro Dallas is now going after that leader from the outside. Dignitarian picks up the cover, Whitson's Wizard and Anxious Robbie rounded out. 3/4 time, 127 flat. This is it. He's coming home, folks, and it's the leader. That's Nihilator with Bill O'Donnell on top. Chairman of the board is second, and moving up on the outside, Dan Garvin through the stretch. It's the 3-year-old Pacing King. The 3-year-old Pacing King is now regaining his throne and capturing the crown like a winner. Nihilator in front, and Nihilator does it. Ladies and gentlemen, he goes out a winner to retirement. Nihilator wins the Breeders' Crown here at Garden State Park in the time of 153 flat. Prohibitive favorite Nihilator, the winner. And now back to you, Sharon.
And thank you very much, Ralph. Do you get the idea Bill O'Donnell wanted to win impressively tonight?
Well, I think that the race went as most people thought it would, including Ron Waples, who said that with Nihilator having his own way, he didn't see how things would go against him. That takes the horse's earnings to $3,225,653, the first $3 million winner in harness racing. It takes his 1985 earnings to $1,864,286. That, incidentally, makes him the richest harness horse in a single year ever, eclipsing the mark set last year by On the Road Again. And it also makes him, of course, the richest money winner of this season. Practice had that title with $1,610,608 going into tonight.
And he went his mile in 1:53. Now, of course, he is used to setting track records. This was not a track record, but it's probably a track record for a day that the temperature's in the 30s, or pretty darn close to one.
It's also a remarkable last quarter mile in 26 seconds here as he just eases through this stretch. And you can see that O'Donnell is not persevering or even asking for anything. He's sitting there with the whip straight up. Now he hits the shaft one time with the saddle pad. Certainly not abusing his horse at all as he wins by 2.5 lengths over chairman of the board. The amazing part of the race to me was the very fine showing of Dan Garvin in finishing third.
And there he is. There is the champion. That is Nihilator, the fastest and the richest standardbred in history. Nihilator, the winner of the Breeders' Crown Pace for 3-year-old colts and geldings. We'll be back with more in a minute.